Hello, my name is Jess.
Reka, Shay,
Ryan.
Welcome to the informative panel. Because we can't really expect everyone to read 303 pages, we'll be breaking down the report of the expert panel in relation to recognising Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples in the Constitution. Reka, why don't you tell us more about the expert panel?
Well, forming in 2010 to discover options for constitutional change, they consist of community leaders, businesses, academics and members of parliament from a variety of different cultures and organisations.
Along with the opinions and ideas of the panel, Australians were surveyed to find out their opinions. The people of Australia say that it's time for constitutional change. In creating constitutional recognition of Indigenous rights, we must make sure we do not create an over-elevation of rights. Ryan will discuss this idea and compare it to Malaysia's current constitution.
The level of rights of the Malaysian Malays and natives of Sabah and Sarawak, called the Bumiputras, are elevated to the extent whereby non-Bumiputras are disadvantaged in almost every facet of life, from places in university to government grants and scholarships, as well as jobs.
Okay, to understand the need for constitutional change, let's get Jess to take us a step backwards towards Indigenous Australians' historic position in the Australian Constitution.
Thanks, Ryan.
Within the Constitution, there were two references made to Aboriginal people. Section 5126 was intended to authorise discriminatory laws over inferior races. Secondly, Section 127 had the purpose of preventing Western Australia and Queensland from using their large Aboriginal populations to gain extra seats in Parliament and a larger share of the tax revenue. Although Section 25 doesn't directly reference Aboriginal people, it was designed to penalise states where Aboriginal people had not been given the right to vote.
Thanks, Jess. I'll just give our viewers a quick overview of how Australia's system of government works. Australia has a federal structure where, although the power is distributed between each of the 6 states and 3 territories, the Australian Constitution is the sovereign law that, with the help of Section 109, authorises the Commonwealth Parliament to make laws for Australia as a whole.
Now the people we are focusing on.
Well, our legal system uses descent, self-identification and community recognition as indicia of being Aboriginal.
Aboriginal people have been the inhabitants of Australian land for 40 to 70,000 years. The panel has made note that the basis of settlement in Australia is and always has been the exertion of force by and on behalf of the British Crown.
Since British settlement, the native Australians have been subjected to the White Australia Policy and the Aborigines Acts that imposed restrictions on their freedom. Until 1972, Aboriginal people were not granted fundamental human rights.
There have been some major social changes within Australian society, though.
Oh, definitely. The referendum deleting Section 127 and the words other than the Aboriginal race in any state from Section 5126 received the largest yes majority for an Australian referendum.
Subsequently, the landmark case of Mabo gave native Australians land rights, and our government introduced the Native Title Act, established the Indigenous Land Fund and delivered a social justice package.
There are, however, concerns over the government's lack of responsibility and accountability for the historical exclusion of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders from governmental processes.
In 2008, Australia endorsed a Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples that signified the rights of Indigenous people to have self-determination and autonomy.
Using guidance from New Zealand and Canada, providing reserved seats in Parliament would create a greater voice for ATSI people. However, the idea of designated seats in Parliament is undemocratic and impractical, leading to members of Parliament who are ill-equipped for the job.
More and more ATSI people have begun engaging in political activity, but the panel would like to see more becoming active in society and Australian politics.
Despite all this, the statistics make evident that there are no real pathways to closing the gaps between the Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. The life expectancy differs by 11.5 years in men and 9.7 years in women. Among many others, there are also large gaps in employment, imprisonment, juvenile detention, disability, income and community violence rates.
As you can see, the Australian population is still left with a dilemma. If you watch our next video, we'll tell you about how the panel aims to deal with this problem. Bye for now.